Welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about uh, groups, embedded macros, and arguments and parameters. So let's start with the groups. As we saw earlier, we can go ahead and delete these steps, and we can go ahead and group these, for example, these selected steps. So we can either right click on the selected steps, and it will give us the menu to group the steps, or Control D. So Control plus D, and we can specify a group name. So first group, it will give us and we will give it a color, so we can specify this color, and we can of course copy paste a group. So first group, let's name this second group and give it another color. We can also group embedded steps. So for example, let's create in here these two steps, and let's put these after them. So, and let's group these ones. So let's name this one inner group and give it the blue color. And of course, we can then group the entirety of the macro, for example, except the first one, and give it a global group. So there is no limit on how much groups you can create and how much groups you can level. So you can have as much levels as you want. So you can organize your macros. And this one here is very useful to, for example, close all or open all. And yeah, and just keep in mind, grouping as much as you want will not impact the performances. So having a group or not having a group will make the macro run as fast as always. So yeah, it doesn't impact the capabilities and the performance of the blazing macros. So this is it regarding the group. So now let's go ahead and start using the embedded macros step. So for the embedded macro step, it is very useful when you want to, for example, create a login form, a step that will be used in in other steps, and it will be embedded, for example, multiple times. So for example, a login form, you want to log into, for example, 10 accounts using the same form. So you can create the same macro and embed it multiple times. This gives you this this makes it very powerful to organize and to optimize your edits. So for example, if the login form updates and you have 10 times the same macro, you will have to update it only once, and then the embedded macros will update accordingly. So it is very powerful to have this functionality. So let's go ahead and create another tab. Okay, so validate license key. Let's go ahead in my first macro. Let's edit this one. So let's call it login form. Okay, let's go in it, and now let's for example copy this. I don't know, copy this step and paste it here. Okay, it will copy the entire group. Okay, let's for example delete. Let's get that back outside, and let's delete these two steps. Okay, let's rename this one to form group. And in the form group, we will, for example, have text inputs. For example, let's print the login. Let's print the login and then print the login value. So my login, just some dummy data. So my login, and then again, let's print password, 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 and then my password. And let's add another step text just to indicate that we finished writing. So now we can go ahead here and refresh the page to get our embedded macros. Okay, and right here we can, inside the first group, we can embed macros. So you can embed macros inside groups and have groups inside embed macros. So it is very powerful to organize your steps these ways. Okay, so we can embed macro and we will automatically get our login form. We can add our login form in here, give it a color. So let's give it the red color and add it in here. So, and it will automatically give us this give us give us the same macro, the same steps that are included in here. So let's go ahead and test it. We can run the embedded macro. So let's go ahead and run the embedded macro. Okay, it will run, it will wait 2 seconds and then wait 2 seconds, and then it will another time wait 2 seconds and then write the login and write the password. So okay, so now we included this one time, so now let's do this again. Let's remove these waiting periods. Okay, let's remove these ones. Let's close all, open the group, open the first group, login form. So let's duplicate it again and give it another color. Okay, so just for it to be more visible, let's delete everything else. Okay, so we will move this one in here and remove this one in here. Okay, no, move this one in here and move this one in here. Okay, so now we will wait for 2 seconds, write and use the embedded macro 2 times. So let's test that. Let's run. It will wait 2 seconds and then wait 2 seconds, and it will write the login and password, and then again wait 2 seconds and write the same login and same password. Okay, so now as we saw, we can use the same macro multiple times and of course embed multiple macros inside groups and stuff like that. But the most powerful feature ever is to be able to give parameters. So I want to use the same login form, for example, 3 times, and give this one another color. But each time I want it to print different logins and passwords. So I want to use the same macro, but each time pass it a different values for the login and password. And we can do that by going back to the login form and specifying in the arg section parameters. So what we saw previously was variables, which are just values that can be overridden, but for parameters, there are values are, parameters are just values that are fixed for the macro. So let's name the first parameter login and just give it an initial value to be used as a default one if a login is not found. So login, so let's give it my login and create another parameter password and name it my password. Okay, and now we can go ahead and use these values in the keyboard text input. So we saw earlier that we can print values from variables, but now we can also use print keyboard text from parameters. So now we can go ahead and choose the login, and it will indicate here that it has a parameter login, and also this one will change it from my password to the password parameter. And just like that, when we go back to the my first macro that embeds everything, we can now run. So without changing anything, if we run, it will fail because we didn't specify the parameters. Yeah, and the login parameter login not found. So we can go ahead and refresh the page. And now when we come back here, so we will still see that it has a parameter, but we didn't specify a parameter when we embedded the macro. So we can go ahead and edit the macro, and it will tell us that the login form macro now expects a login and a password because we did specify them in here. So just once we specify that this macro expects login and password, when we come back here and we want to embed the macro, so we can even embed it directly. So we can come here and embed macro. So when we choose login form, it will expect us to provide some value. So if we don't provide values, it will tell us that it is invalid data. So since we created these ones before, so now we have to update them. So let's call this one login v1 and password v1. And of course we should update everything. So this one will also be login v1. And of course, as you saw, if we don't specify value, it will indicate to us that it is an invalid, that it has invalid data. So login and enter. So now when we hit enter and we remove everything, so now we'll have the same macro that we will print login v1 and password v1. The second time it will print Login, uh, I think I didn't update the values here. Yeah, I forgot to do here v2, and in the last one we will have v3. So yeah, let's go ahead and test it again. Let's remove everything. We will wait for 2 seconds and then write the v1, wait for 2 seconds and then write the v2 as you saw, and then wait for 2 seconds and then write the v3. And this way you can make your macros more generic and reuse them. And yeah, so now if the login form changes, for example, the for example the a color changes and you wanted to update a macro. Previously you'd have to update every single step here, but now you'll have to just update this macro. For example, wait for 3 seconds. If the page now takes more times, for example, wait 4 seconds, and it will update on all the pages. So let's go back to the other macro, just refresh the page, and open all. And now, as you can see, 4 seconds in every one of them. And yeah, so that was all regarding the groups, embedded macros, and parameters. And I'll see you in the next one.